In our technologically driven world, we often overlook the environmental impact of our digital devices. Enter the world of sustainable smartphones, where innovation meets conservation. One company leading this green revolution is Fairphone, a Dutch social enterprise that has taken up the challenge to reduce electronic waste by creating a smartphone that owners can repair themselves. Yes, you heard that right. Fairphone has not just created a phone, it's a device that carries with it a mission, a vision for a world less burdened by electronic waste. Operating on the simple yet powerful premise of increasing the lifespan of our phones, Fairphone aims to halve the amount of phones produced, and consequently, halve the amount of waste. So let's delve deeper into the story of Fairphone and figure out what makes it the world's most sustainable smartphone. At first glance, a smartphone might not seem like an obvious candidate for sustainability, but Fairphone has found a way. Let's dive into the world of Fairphone, a Dutch social enterprise that has taken up the challenge of constructing what it calls the world's most sustainable smartphone. Founded in Amsterdam in 2013, Fairphone's approach to sustainability is simple yet revolutionary. A smartphone that you can repair yourself. Now you might be wondering, how does one repair a smartphone? Well, the secret lies in its 8 replaceable components. From the camera to the battery, the USB port to the screen, and even the loudspeaker. Each part is designed to be easily removed and replaced. But why is this important? Remember the last time you had a minor issue with your phone? Maybe the camera wasn't working or the battery wasn't holding a charge. With most smartphones, these small issues often mean it's time for a costly upgrade, even though most of the phone is still in perfect working condition. But not with Fairphone. Instead of replacing the entire device, you can simply replace the faulty component. This innovative approach is not just about saving you money, it's about saving our planet from the growing problem of electronic waste. Every year, an estimated 50 million tons of electronic waste is produced globally. That's more than the weight of all commercial airliners ever made. Yet, only 20% of this waste is recycled. By making smartphones that are easily repairable, Fairphone is encouraging us to hold on to our devices for longer, reducing the demand for new phones and, in turn, the volume of electronic waste. Fairphone's mission is clear: to create a smartphone that's built to last, not just technologically but environmentally too. It's a simple but powerful equation. If you use your phone twice as long, you produce half the amount of phones and therefore half the amount of waste. By creating a smartphone that can be repaired rather than replaced, Fairphone is making a significant contribution to reducing electronic waste. Electronic waste, or e-waste, is one of the fastest growing waste streams globally. It's a tidal wave of discarded gadgets and devices, all once shiny, new, and cutting edge, now rendered obsolete by the relentless march of technology. The statistics are staggering. Each year, we generate an estimated 50 million tons of e-waste. To put that into perspective, that's heavier than all the commercial airliners ever made, according to the United Nations Environment Program. And the most alarming part? Only about 20% of this massive heap of electronic debris is recycled. Our appetite for the latest tech gadgets, particularly smartphones, is adding to this mountain of e-waste. The World Economic Forum predicts that by the year 2050, annual e-waste production will more than double, reaching a whopping 120 million tons. In the year 2022 alone, an estimated 5.3 billion mobile phones were discarded. That's almost one for every person on the planet. In countries like the United States, the average person replaces their phone every 18 months, as new models with upgraded features are continually released. The problem is, most of these devices are designed as sealed units, making them extremely difficult and expensive to repair. Even worse, they often produce error messages if damaged components are fixed, essentially forcing us to toss them aside and buy new ones. And here's the rub: the production of these smartphones is not without consequence. They contain rare metals and components from all corners of the globe. The extraction and refining of these materials can result in significant environmental impacts, including air, water, and soil contamination. In the face of this growing problem, Fairphone's mission to create a sustainable smartphone becomes even more vital. By designing phones that can be easily repaired and last longer, they're challenging us to rethink our relationship with our gadgets. The goal? To reduce our contribution to the growing e-waste problem and create a more sustainable future for us all. One of the key features of the Fairphone is its longevity. In a bid to counter the throwaway culture prevalent in the tech industry, Fairphone has designed a smartphone that's not just durable, but repairable. This means that if a component breaks or becomes obsolete, you won't have to discard the whole phone. Instead, you can simply replace the part that's no longer working. There are 8 key components in total that can be removed and replaced, including the camera, battery, USB port, screen, and loudspeaker. This design not only makes the Fairphone a more sustainable choice, but also a more economical one. After all, replacing a single part is typically cheaper than buying a brand new phone. But the benefits of this approach extend beyond your wallet. By encouraging people to repair their phones rather than discard them, Fairphone is taking aim at one of the most pressing environmental issues of our time: electronic waste. E-waste, as it's often called, is the world's fastest growing waste stream. Each year, an estimated 50 million tons of electronic waste is produced globally. That's more than the weight of all the commercial airliners ever made, and only about 20% of that waste is recycled. The rest ends up in landfills, where it can leach harmful substances into the soil and groundwater. By extending the lifespan of smartphones, Fairphone hopes to reduce the amount of e-waste produced. As Fairphone co-founder Bas van Abel puts it, it's a very simple calculation. If you use the phone twice as long, you produce half the amount of phones and half the amount of waste. The environmental benefits of this approach are significant. According to the Restart Project, a UK nonprofit, extending the lifespan of a smartphone by just 33% could prevent carbon emissions equivalent to Ireland's annual emissions. By doubling the lifespan of a smartphone, we can halve the amount of waste produced, and in doing so, we can take a step towards a more sustainable future. While the concept of a sustainable smartphone is appealing, it's important to consider the materials that go into making one. The Fairphone, for instance, is built with a myriad of different materials. To be precise, the Fairphone 5 contains 40 different materials. But hold on a second, before we start singing praises, only 14 of these materials, constituting about 42% of the phone's total weight, are sourced sustainably and ethically. That's a bit over a third of the phone's composition. And of those 14, only 70% come from fair trade or recycled sources. Why is that, you might wonder? Well, it's not as simple as picking out eco-friendly materials from a supermarket shelf. Sourcing materials sustainably and ethically poses a significant challenge. The materials used in smartphones, including the Fairphone, often include rare earth elements. The mining of these elements can have a significant environmental impact, leading to air, water, and soil contamination. In a review of Fairphone's sustainability efforts, experts suggested that the company could further improve its green credentials by procuring more materials from fair certified sources. The recommendation also included making phones that are not only repairable, but also upgradable. This would extend the device's lifespan even further, reducing the need for new materials and thus lessening the environmental impact. In response, Fairphone's co-founder, Bas van Abel, has stated that the company is indeed pushing its boundaries. It has increased the number of materials sourced from sustainable and ethical sources from 8 to 14. That's progress, right? But of course, there's always room for improvement. The journey towards a fully sustainable smartphone is a long one, fraught with challenges. But it's companies like Fairphone that are leading the charge, pushing the boundaries of what's possible, and setting new benchmarks for the rest of the industry. Even though not every material in a Fairphone is currently sustainable, the company is making strides in increasing the number of sustainable and ethically sourced materials used. The journey to creating a truly sustainable smartphone is not an easy one, but Fairphone is leading the way. From the self-repairable design to the use of recycled plastic and fair trade gold and silver, Fairphone's approach is a breath of fresh air in an industry that's notorious for its contribution to electronic waste. By encouraging users to fix their phones rather than replace them, Fairphone is directly combating the world's fastest-growing waste stream. But the road to sustainability is not without its challenges. With a complex product containing rare metals and components from all over the world, achieving full sustainability is a tall order. But every step taken, every improvement made, is a victory in the fight against e-waste. As we look to the future, the question is not just what a sustainable smartphone looks